Hello, everybody, and welcome to Late Night Football. Yes, it's a Sunday show because we may have something planned for tomorrow, maybe, no promises. So we're doing the Premier League review today. We're doing a full review of all the weekend's action, some great games, and I think we're all still buzzing a little bit from that Liverpool City game. We really are. It's a fantastic matchup, and to just dissect that and all the other games, you've got Gaurav back on the show. Gaurav, welcome again.
It's good to be back here, right?
Yes, and we've got Siddhant back again as well. Siddhant, thank you for joining as well.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Yeah, and we should say Siddhant, was a bit modest in the previous show before the Chelsea City game, and turned out it was actually kind of, not unfounded because Chelsea did lose that game. So yeah, I know. So maybe Siddhant's modesty is not misplaced. But anyway, we'll go in. We'll start off with the Liverpool City game because that's so fresh in our minds. We'll talk about that first because. That was a game, Gaurav. That is maybe in a nutshell what happens when you have possibly two of the two best teams in the Premier League going head to head with each other.
Yeah, definitely, and arguably you could say, the best match and the most look forward to match whole season. And I kind of thought it was pretty one-sided in the first half. Liverpool sitting back, trying to absorb the pressure, and City were not really clinical, but it exploded in the second half, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And there's so many sub points to talk about. Siddhant, we'll start with the slightly obvious one. We'll talk about the defense because I think all 4 goals were defensive errors at the end of the day. For all the tactics and everything else that we talk about, those 4 goals were defensive errors. Is it just the fact that the attacking players were too good, or is there a fundamental, maybe not a flaw, but there is something there that can be exploited by other teams?
For Liverpool, it's obvious, right? They were missing Trent Arnold terribly, and Milner was terrible. He had such a bad game. I think both the goals came from that side. Or at least the first goal, it came from Foden. So that was on the right side of Liverpool.
No, but the passes were made on the right, on near the Robertson side. Foden just finished it off, right?
Maybe, but Milner didn't even.
A sore topic, but
I think he should have. Yeah, and I think he should have. He got saved. He could have gotten the second yellow card as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, Cancelo and Foden, they together exploited that Milner side throughout the game, especially in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And Liverpool were looking really weak on that side. So yeah, definitely Liverpool did suffer from lack of defensive personnel on that particular part. From City, I'm not sure if there were any major individual defensive errors as such, but I think with the defense that they have had till now, and especially the first goal looked like it was against the run of play. City were dominating till then. So definitely City would be disappointed to concede 2 goals in this game is what I guess.
Yeah, it could have been 3 if not for Rodri's block. Cancelo, I think was probably really bad as well. I think both right backs had bad game. Cancelo played on the left, right, technically. So yeah, I think both two full backs had a bad game. I think Cancelo was responsible for both goals. We'll talk about the James Milner, Gaurav. I think he should have had 3 yellow cards, not 2. He should have had 3 because the Foden foul was a foul, and if that was a foul, that would have been a yellow card as well. So you're talking 3 fouls. I think he should have been sent off.
Yeah, I think he should have been sent off on the first yellow card he got. That should have been a second yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue Foden was also through on goal on the first foul he made, just outside the box. So, another day, another referee that could have been given even a straight red.
Yeah, maybe.
Was calling opportunity, last man.
Mm-hmm.
Ahead of the death. So.
Yeah, I think the rules say that if he was playing the ball, then you get a yellow. So I don't know what it's not clear on that. But yes, he should have got 3 yellow cards. And Pep Guardiola, if they had lost the game, I think that probably would have been the point because he should have been sent out. They would have been down to 10 men, and then they went and scored that second goal from Mo Salah. But so that Mo Salah, if anybody watched that game for 85 minutes and then watched those 5 minutes where he had that assist and that goal, they would think, Mo Salah what's the hype about him because he was pretty average throughout. But those 2 moments, that's where Mo Salah comes alive, doesn't it? That assist was brilliant, the way he skinned Cancelo. And then that goal, that's just, it's something we all wish we had a player like that in our team, but we don't. there's very few of them to go around. It's fantastic.
Yeah, even I think the goal was also from his weaker foot. I think he's pretty left-footed, and he scored with his right, and it was a fantastic goal actually from a tight angle. So yeah, he's a game changer for Liverpool. That's what I think that if Mane and Salah have an off day, then what would Liverpool do? I mean, there is absolutely no plan B there.
That is true. But I mean, when you have two players like that, you don't generally need plan Bs too often. I think they haven't needed it this season. They won pretty much every game that they played, if I'm not mistaken, aside from the Chelsea
that's what
game.
happened last season, right? I mean, last season, for some games they were thrown off and then they were suddenly out of the contention for the title.
That is true. And I think that's where Diogo Jota comes in. I think if he hadn't got injured at that critical time, that's I think they had that he is their sort of their plan 1B, I guess, not a plan B, but a plan A1, I guess, A1, A2. Plan A2 is like a plan A2. Diogo Jota, he can do as well. But anyway, I mean, Gaurav, who's going to be happier with the point, you think? Will it be City? Will it be Liverpool? Or will both be like, well, it should have been 3 points?
This early in the season, I think a point in such a big game, I think both the managers should be happy. Pep might not be that happy because of all the Milner incident. He obviously thinks if he was sent off, the match was there for City to be won. So, but personally, I'm really happy, getting a point away at Anfield. It's a really good result.
And I mean, here's a little bit of a note here. Now, Chelsea, Liverpool, and City were the top 3 title contenders. They've all played each other now. By now, we're only 7 games in, but they've all played each other. For the first leg, they've all played each other. The count, if anybody is interested, is City have 4 points, Liverpool have 2, and Chelsea have 1. So, but I mean, if
City have played both the games away, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Probably. Yeah. Well, they did play against Liverpool. They played both games away. Yeah. Liverpool actually have, even Chelsea. Well, Chelsea played 1 at home, 1 away. Liverpool have played both at home. Because yes, so Liverpool will have to go to Chelsea and City. City will of course have both of them at home. So maybe City have a bit of an advantage because they've got 4 points on that. I mean, it's a mini table. I mean, obviously there are other games as well that count. But at the end of the day, Chelsea are now top of the table, 16 points. So that's a nice little start for Chelsea actually. In that sense, they've been able to play both their biggest rivals and they're still top. So I mean that will be something to note of, and we'll talk about Chelsea next because well, actually, you know what? Before we talk about Chelsea, we'll talk about Spurs because we're going to go backwards and reverse. So let's talk about Spurs. This will be very quick. We don't talk too much about Spurs, but 2-1 win. So that they finally got over that losing streak or that not so good streak that they were having, and they did beat Mura in the Conference League. When one knows where they are on the map. If anyone can point out where they are on the map, I'll give them $100 on the show. Without Googling, by the way. But yeah, I mean, Mura. But now they've coming up against Aston Villa, which was a very important game. Aston Villa are a good side. They seem to have arrested a slide. Nuno spot himself some time.
Yeah, but a win against Aston Villa, I'm not so sure it means a lot.
Really? Really? You wanna say that last week? But, you wanna ask Ole Gunnar Solskjaer how much a win over Aston Villa means? Do you wanna ask them that? Because I can tell you right now, it means a lot. But Aston Villa are a pretty good side, actually.
Yeah.
That's that. You're being generous.
No. I mean they are a good side, but I think it was 1-1, and then Aston Villa. I mean it was an own goal or something, and that's how
man target on goal. Yeah.
He still Nuno has still not gotten Kane firing. So, it's been Son which is driving the team. It's 3 points. It's, like a confidence booster, but
I'm going to say something nice about Spurs, but I don't want to say anything nice about Spurs. Why are you making me say nice things about Spurs? It just feels that way, doesn't it? But target was on target in the wrong end. Gaurav, so the international break is coming up, and we're probably going to see Kane firing for against Southgate, maybe, given the quality of the teams. I mean, is it fair now? And Siddhant made the point, and that's why I'm asking this question. He said he hasn't got Kane firing. Can any Spurs manager now get Kane firing? I just feel like we're past that point of getting Kane firing. I just think his head is gone. His mind is not. The body might be willing, the mind isn't.
I think Nuno will get fired before Kane starts firing, to be honest.
That's why I say, can any Spurs manager get Kane firing? That's why I didn't say can Nuno. So can any Spurs manager get Kane firing at this point? Because I just don't think he wants to be there.
Yeah, obviously. You can see it from his game. Like, he used to track back a lot as well last season. And his head is dropped completely. He's clearly seems like he's not interested in playing for them. But to be honest, I don't see a way out for him unless City or maybe United pay 100 million from him for him, which isn't going to happen. I think so.
Yeah, we can even look a little bit further out. I know City, United, but like I was saying, there's clubs out there. PSG are not going to spend that kind of money. Barcelona don't have that kind of money. They would have spent it if they had that money, but they won't. Real Madrid won't. Bayern won't, and Juventus won't either. And I don't think Inter Milan will either. So there's not a lot of options at this point for him.
Yeah.
But if Kane keeps performing like this, for a year or so, I'm so sure his price is going to be dropped. He won't be of any value to Spurs.
Yeah. So, no, that is true. I think that's what it is. But
yeah, but then he'll be like 29, 30, I don't think Levi will let him go even for 100 million, even after season or so.
Well, but even so, because the issue is, we're talking about Haaland, we're talking about Mbappe. These are the kind of players that Madrid, Barcelona, well, not Barcelona, probably, but Madrid and Bayern Munich and cities and United. These are the kind of players that are being talked about. So where does Kane fit into it for any team? Because he's clearly not going to be first choice for any of those teams that could afford an Mbappe or a Haaland. They're not going to go for him. So I feel like this was his season where he could have found a big club. Now I think and I think he probably realizes that in the back of his mind as well. Maybe he thinks that January is the last chance that he's going to have. And if he can force a move in January, that is something. Because otherwise, in the summer, there's a lot of big strikers that are available, younger and cheap, and not cheaper, but younger at least. So,
but just think about it, how perceptions change in just 7 games. I mean, it's just 7 games. And, till the start of the season, we were all like, Kane, is the missing piece in City. And
I think he
now
still
we are seeing how bad he is.
I think he still is. I just think his value is price tag is incredible. And I think in a year's time, the issue is that in a year's time, there are other strikers that are going to be available that are cheaper and younger. And I think that is the issue. That's why this year was where Kane had to move. That's just my opinion. I don't think Kane is a bad player, that Kane is not useful to a club. It's just we don't, there's other teams that are probably more other players that are more attractive next year than Kane. Right. But anyway, that's just my opinion, and we don't know what will happen. And so maybe that's why Kane is like, I need to force a move in January. I can't wait till next summer because I'm not going to go anywhere otherwise. Maybe. But I mean, nonetheless, 3 points for Spurs. I think that's very important as well for them if they have to keep the race for Europe alive. I think that's it also helps Nuno a little bit. By the way, Kane did score a hat-trick in that 20 minutes hat-trick against Mura. So, he's still scoring goals. He just probably decides when and where he wants to score them. And on that note, speaking of strikers, there's another striker that came along, Hwang Hee-Chan, scoring 2 goals for Wolves. A much needed win for Wolves as well. They needed that. So if you did have we didn't have Hwang Hee-Chan on our Hwang Hee-Chan, I don't know how you pronounce it, but Hwang Hee-Chan, if you had him on your fantasy team, congratulations, because he got 2 goals. Gaurav, South Korean strikers, they're coming along. Son and now Hwang, and they might have you could probably just look at good South Korean strikers if you're looking for that. I mean, he's not world class or anything, but he's someone who Wolves need. Wolves need a striker and score goals anyway.
Yeah, and even when Spurs signed Son, he was not really a world class player. He was a good player, but not currently kind of form he's in, the kind of player is. No, he was not at that level. So you don't know, even with him, he might get used to the league and maybe move to a bigger club. And
yeah, well, that's always the goal, isn't it? And of course, he had a bit of a bad time at Valencia, from what I remember. So, or was it Valencia or was it another club? I can't remember, but he had a bad time at the last club. So now he's come to Wolves, where he's hoping he can do well, and we hope he will do well. But much needed even for Wolves, and it's needed because managers starting to get sacked. We already have a first sacking. Xisco's out from Watford. I mean, is it surprising that it's Watford who are the first club to sack a manager? Probably not. I mean, so that's what's going on. I mean, can you make any sense of the thinking behind it? Because I really can't.
It doesn't make any sense. If you remember the last time Watford got relegated, they were actually out of the relegation zone. And actually Villa was supposed to get relegated. I think that's 2 or 3 years before this year. And, suddenly Watford sacked their manager just, with just 3 games remaining or something.
3 or 2 games remaining,
and Villa survived and Watford got relegated. So it doesn't make any sense. I mean, what are they thinking? They are not even in the relegation zone right now. I mean, they are in the zone, but they are not in the bottom 3 right now.
Yeah.
And instead of backing the manager, they are sacking him. I mean, if they would have backed him with good signings and not seeing the result as such, then it's a different story. But It doesn't make sense. But they have been known to make decisions like this, like I just
Yeah.
mentioned, just years back.
If you think about it, I don't think Watford, if they can keep that managerial tendency aside, I don't think they're one of the three worst teams in the league, because I think Norwich have one of those positions down anyway. Then you still got Newcastle, you've got Burnley, you've got not Leeds, but maybe Wolves, maybe if they cannot keep that goal scoring up, they might be down there as well. They've got three teams worse than
Right
them.
now, Southampton is
Southampton,
fourth
yeah.
from
Well,
the
I
bottom.
think Southampton might survive just because the way that they play, they might survive, but we never know. We never know with these things. Yeah, so they've got 3 or 4 teams worse than them, but then they keep doing this kind of, they pull this kind of stunt, and then the players also start to give up, right? Speaking of which, Burnley, Newcastle, Norwich, that was a draw. I told you, pick a Burnley defender, you'll get points for a clean sheet. They got a clean sheet, so that's fun for me as well. But I mean that it's Gaurav, that is tough for Burnley. Not picking up 3 points against Norwich at home, that's concerning.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've always had a good defense. Burnley, even a couple of seasons ago, I remember them taking a lot of points away from the big teams. Playing at home and playing for the draw. They do know how to park the bus. But this was a match they definitely should have been winning. Against Norwich, who are definitely going down. I don't see them surviving the Premier League season. So yeah, big loss for them.
Even we live in a bizarre world when Watford manager can get sacked, but Daniel Farke is still in a job without not having won for 7 games. He's still hanging around. I don't know how long he's going to hang around. I mean, let's just take a poll here, Gaurav. Who do you think is going to be the next manager to be sacked? Let's just take a prediction. Who do you think is going to be the next manager to be sacked? Let's start with you, Siddhant. Who do you think? I can just say the club as well if you don't know all the names of the managers.
Before this game, I would have said Nuno, but he has got a breather now with 3 points.
Yeah.
Maybe Arteta. I think when we talk about the Arsenal match, we'll realize that,
Oh, Arteta. Okay, that's just a prediction. I don't think that's going to happen. That's a prediction. Arteta. I don't think so, but I mean, maybe. If all the other teams suddenly go on a run, but Arteta is a little bit of a bold prediction, I would say. Gaurav?
Yeah. I honestly want to say Norwich, but I think even their management knows that they are going to go down. They don't have a good enough team to survive in the league. Maybe Steve Bruce, Newcastle.
That was going to be my pick. Steve Bruce was going to be my pick too. I don't know what's going on there with him, but I mean, it's Newcastle. It's one of those teams, isn't it, where you don't expect a lot, and then when you don't expect a lot, you don't get much as well from them. It's sad. It's sad to see Newcastle because, as I said, 15 years ago, they used to be my FIFA team. I used to play with them on FIFA 2006, only because they were the best team that you could play with. In the past, you couldn't play with big teams right away. In career mode, you had to wait 2-3 years before you could. So Newcastle were the best team that you could play with. So they were my team, but sad to see what has happened still with them. They used to have Alan Shearer and all these guys. But anyway, we'll get on. We'll talk about Arsenal against Brighton. Siddhant, Arteta called it a point gained. You just said, a win over Aston Villa is not worth crowing about. But then Arteta would say that's something about that. But do you agree with that? Is it a point gain? I mean, Brighton are doing well this season. Let's be honest. They were ahead of Arsenal as well in the league, I believe. They are ahead of that. But is it a point gain?
Yeah.
Home against Brighton?
No. See, I know Brighton are in a good spot right now. But see, Arteta had all these excuses about not having so many people, so many players. They played their best team, I think. I don't think there were any major absentees or anything like that.
Xhaka, probably the only one, maybe.
Yeah, but they had Lokonga and Thomas Partey in midfield. I mean, and
that's okay.
they had Odegaard. So
Dan, that's your opinion. I'm just telling you you're free to have your opinion. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, and so still, and it finished 0-0. I mean, they are not able to score goals right now. And if a club like Arsenal, even if Brighton is above them right now, but if a club like Arsenal, they start thinking that a 0-0 draw against Brighton is a point gain, then I think that is just poor mentality. And the club deserves a better manager than Arteta, at least I would say. It's just poor from him to say that.
It's a Sunday night and Siddhant is spewing fire like on the thing. He's just like, I think Siddhant just hates all London clubs. Don't make me say anything good about London clubs aside from Chelsea. It's just like comes out, doesn't it? But Gaurav, I mean, that Siddhant does touch up on a good point. It's the goal scoring that's an issue. I mean, they did score 3 against Spurs, but Spurs are in a bad spot. But aside from that, they haven't scored a lot of goals in the other games. Maybe in the Carabao Cup they've scored, but in the Premier League, they haven't scored a lot of goals. That's an issue.
Yeah, definitely. Even, as Siddhant said, they had almost, best 11 players that they've got right now on the pitch. So a nil draw away at Brighton. I mean, Brighton are playing really good. They are 6th in the table, I think, right now. So to be honest, I want to say Arsenal are closer to, similar to Brighton right now. If you compare them, I think so. If you look at that way, then not really a bad result, but the kind of club they are, the big stature that they hold. So definitely not the right thing to say from the manager that 1 point is good enough.
Yeah, I just think that if you're trying to come into the top 4, if you're a team that's aiming for top 4, you can't be happy with the point against Brighton. But if you are a team that's probably looking for conference, Europa League, if you're trying to be in the top half, then yes, a point against Brighton is a good one. But anyways,
they're 11th after that point. I mean, they're not even in the top 10. They have scored 10 points out of 7 games, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, their season started with the 4 games. We've got to take out the 3 games. Right? That's when their season started. So it's 10 points from 4 games, not 10 points from 7 games. At least that's what their fans say. But anyway, Gaurav, I mean, this is the thing. We talk about Harry Kane. Let's talk about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, because he's been, I mean, is he in bad form for the last year and a half since he's got his new contract? It's almost as if, I mean, if he had made, we talk about Harry Kane, his mind not being there because he wants to leave. Is Aubameyang's mind not there because he's staying, because he knows he's going to stay for 5 years? It's a year and a half is a long time to be in a slump, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think he has lost that goal scoring touch since he started playing on the left wing. It seems like he's almost forgotten how to make that run behind the defense. I think last season it was Lacazette playing up top most of the time and Aubameyang on the left. So definitely, and I think he's in the same situation as of Kane right now, and he's even older. I think.
Yeah, he's in his 30s already. I mean, well, it's not. I think it's a 360 situation where Kane is unhappy because he wants to leave, whereas Aubameyang is probably too happy that he's going to stay for 5 years. So he doesn't care what you're going to do to me. Sometimes it feels that way. It's like, that's one of the things about contracts, isn't it? It's so hard when you give someone a new contract and you hope that they will keep performing and they don't. It sucks. But anyway, that is troublesome. But the good news, Siddhant, I know I'm asking you to praise them, but the good news is another clean sheet for Arsenal. So at least they fixed some of the defensive issues that they had at the start of the season when they can say 9 goals. They've done pretty well at least to fix that.
Yes. And their back four looked good, especially with Tomiyasu. I hate that guy. He's doing really well. And he has done really well on that right side of the defense. Just stopped the runs over there. So he's doing well.
Yeah, I mean, and you're doing well if Siddhant is praising you. If praising you when you play for Arsenal, and you've done really well, because that is not something that happens often. But we'll talk about Chelsea against Southampton. I tell you what, Siddhant, Chelsea got a little bit lucky, with the fact that they got 2 goals out of that red card, because otherwise they weren't looking like they were scoring. And when they were scoring, the referee didn't want them to score. It just felt like that, didn't it? The second goal that was disallowed. I mean, let's talk about that disallowed goal first. We'll talk about Chelsea overall. Should it have been disallowed? Maybe it was a foul.
No way. Even if it was a foul and if it's not called I personally don't think that's a foul. But even if that's a foul, that's not really leading to the goal. And how many steps are you going to go back? If really VAR is going to go back 5 or 6 steps, then they should have a limit, right? I mean, we are going to go back till this particular time. They can't keep going back just to disallow this poor guy's goal who's struggling for goals,
Yeah.
Everyone felt bad for Werner, and it was he redeemed himself after.
I just wonder if the referees were like, well, Werner scored a goal and we can't have that, so let's see how far back we can go to avoid it.
Literally looked like that, yeah.
But in the end, Gaurav, Werner did manage to score a goal. They won 3-1. The red card, though, that changed the complexion of the game, didn't it? I think after that, I just feel that Chelsea was struggling a little bit with the Southampton press, but after that, they got into it and they were able to win that game.
Yeah, definitely. I think Southampton, even though they are kind of struggling right now in the bottom 5 teams, but they have a really good defense. Even against City, they played really well. So they have a good defense, but they don't have proper playmakers, and they sold Inks, who scored a lot of goals for them last season. So I think they will survive. And yeah, it was definitely a little bit tough for Chelsea to create chances, and they are missing the Mount. I think he has been struggling with injuries, and even before that, he was kind of out of form at the start of season.
Speaking of Mount, actually, Barkley had a pretty decent hand to play in those 2 goals that came along, and maybe that is just the key, isn't it? They just needed somebody who could create in that midfield, and maybe it turned out to be Barkley. But it just shows the importance, doesn't it, of having a squad where you can have different players. But the real problem is Saul Niguez. Siddhant, why did Chelsea sign him? Did they really need him? Because at this point, he's like sixth choice. I mean, as somebody was saying, he's really down the pecking order, isn't he? What
See,
was he going through?
the idea, the idea was to have four midfielders, and they were actually trying to find clubs to loan both Ruben Loftus-Cheek as well as Ross Barkley. But till the deadline day, they were not able to find clubs, and here we are. Actually, I think since Saul had a stinker in his first game, Tuchel really decided to use him only when necessary, or maybe in the cup games or something like that. And Loftus-Cheek has really started performing well. So it's been a while, but he had a very bad injury, and I think Tuchel is giving him a really good chance now, and he's taking it. So.
Yeah, I don't mean to say that that signing Saul was because of Ruben Loftus-Cheek or Barkley, but the issue is the fact is that they are outperforming him. So I mean, I wonder what was going through his mind, that he just came from a title-winning side where he was a sort of a cog in the wheel, not really, necessarily a big cog, but he was.
I don't think he was. Yeah, he was not
much.
performing well for even Atletico in the last year. So I think he also wanted to rediscover his form here, but.
Well, he rediscovered it all right. The bad side, he rediscovered it. No, the thing is that's true. I mean, he was on like a lifetime contract with Atletico or something, like 6 to 7 years. He had like an insane amount of time left on his contract. So there's no way that Atletico would let him go if he was playing consistently. I don't think he wanted to go either. Gaurav, I think the final question about Chelsea and Southampton. Now we've got a 3-way title challenge. I think we have. I really think we do. I know some people might disagree, but I think we really have 3 teams. It's Chelsea, Liverpool, and City, no particular order. I think if you were to rate the 3 teams based on what you've seen in the 7 games, how do you rate them? Just in terms of what you've seen.
To be honest, I will still say that Chelsea are the title favorites because, especially after signing Lukaku and South, they've got the depth and defense in the midfield, and they have a striker who can score goals. The problem with City is same, will create, huge number of chances every game, and there's no one to finish. And same with Liverpool, as Siddhant said previously. If one of Salah or Mane suffers an injury, or they go kind of out of form for 4 or 5 games, there's no proper backup. So if you compare squad-wise, I think Chelsea have a better squad, better backups and all. So I'll say first Chelsea, second City, third Liverpool.
So that's very interesting. Maybe contentious in certain parts to say that City can't score goals when they just score 2 from their midfield. But I digress. I'll leave that. Siddhant, since Gaurav has bigged up Chelsea, I'll let you be the modest and bring them down now. So what do you think about if you were to rate 1, 2, 3?
Honestly, I don't think I can rate 1, 2, 3 after 7 games. But as a Chelsea fan, I'm feeling confident that, in these particular 7 games, we have had tough opposition and derby games, even derby games are tough. So we have come out of it pretty well. So I would not say we are out of the title race. We are definitely in the title race. But if
you can't say you're out of the title race when you're on the top of the table. Siddhant, you're top of the Chelsea, you're top of the table. How can you say they're out of the title race? That'd be the weirdest statement that I've ever heard from anyone make. But okay.
Yeah, but see, if City manage to continue to score goals without a striker till January, I think they are certainly going to go for a striker in January. I don't think they're going to wait till the summer window if they are really looking to challenge in both Premier League and Champions League. They need a striker. Today you could see that Foden is getting into such promising positions, trying to make that pass, and there was no number 9 to actually make those runs. So if City could get a striker in January, I would say City is number 1. If not, it is 1-2 between Chelsea and City, because I think during the African Cup of Nations, I think Liverpool might have some few off games at that time.
Yeah, that will be one to watch out for. We may not have the African Cup of Nations. We don't know yet. If we do, we do. But there's a good chance we won't. I feel the COVID issue right now is pretty tough, even especially in Africa. But yes, but we will see. We don't know what will happen. And that may define where Liverpool end up this season. That is true. So we'll see. We'll cross our fingers and hope for the best, I guess, for that one. But yes, we do at least for now, we do have a three-way title challenge, at least for now. We'll know more in about another 5, 6 games, 10 games. Maybe we'll see where the teams are. But the fact is they've all played each other, so they can't take points off of each other. So now it's really about all of them just keeping the momentum for the next 10, 15 games and seeing where they end up. And speaking of which, there were a lot of people who were talking. I've left this one for the last because, quite frankly, it boggles my mind, and I honestly don't want to talk much about it. So I've kind of get it last, so we can kind of get this one over with. Seriously, there were some people who thought it was going to be a 4-way title challenge. To all those people, I just want to say I've got 3 fingers, and you can figure out which one is for you. But because that really, honestly, it's just, I saw the game Liverpool against City today, to be honest, Gaurav, and I was like, how many United players, forget the coaching, forget everything else. I know people want to blame the coaching. We'll talk about it. But the fact is, how many of those City and Liverpool players would you even want to replace with the United players? And maybe Bruno might come in, maybe Ronaldo because he's Ronaldo. But the other 9 players, whoever you pick in those 9 positions, I don't think any of them can do what those Liverpool and City players can do. I just don't, the gulf in class is just too much, isn't it? Between United and Liverpool, City, and maybe even Chelsea. It's quite big.
Definitely, yes. Apart from Bruno and Ronaldo, I don't think you would replace anyone from in City or Liverpool, even Chelsea. I think.
Yeah.
There's a big gulf in class of players, and also I think it has come down to coaching as well. You don't see them pressing as a team. If you see how City play or how Liverpool play, if one of the players goes for the press, the rest of the players also try to close off the angles and so that the pass can go through. But you don't see that at United, and that is something that has to be blame has to be put on the coach. That is something you train. So
the pressing part is, but I just feel that United have never been a pressing team. Like even under Jose, they were not. Even under Louis, I think Louis tried to do it, and the players just kind of hated it, so they didn't do it. I just don't think United like to press. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I guess pressing can be coached into players, but I think if the club does, if the club as a whole, if they do not encourage that, right from the youth system above, then it doesn't matter. I don't know. I just feel like I've seen, as far as I've watched United, I've never seen them being a high press team, but I don't know. Maybe that needs to change. That's something.
I think since Pep and Klopp has moved to the league, rest of the teams have definitely picked up this trait. They try to press. Even the bottom half teams, they like to press, close down the angles, but that doesn't seem to happen at United. Bruno and all, they like to press, but they don't press as a team. That is the issue.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, you look at Daniel Fark, he's German. Hassan Atal, he's German. You got Bielsa, who's, if you don't press, you're going to be pressed off. Forget the field, will be off of the club if you don't press for him. So they've got these coaches who like to do that pressing stuff, right? And so they do that. I just feel Solskjaer is like more British than he's Norwegian. And that he likes to. He's very, I don't know. I just find that his style is very English, and I know that England don't always like to press. Or English teams don't like to press. So maybe that is something. But anyway, so then let's talk about the coaching part. And then we'll come to players. So I just want to talk about the coaching as well. I know a lot of people blame the coaches. Is there something that Solskjaer can do differently? Because I don't want to talk about Oli out and sacking. I don't like to talk about that for any manager, to be honest. I don't like to talk about them leaving. Although we kind of did that whole who's going to get sacked next. But I honestly would prefer not to talk about that kind of stuff. But what can he do differently with this team? Because obviously, there is a feeling that these players are better than they're showing. I don't know if that's the case, but maybe that is. But what can the coaching staff do differently?
See, if you have Fred in midfield, then I don't know if you can do much with him. But
I think that could include as well change of personnel. If you think that personnel and different players need to come in, I just don't know.
See, Ole. As a coach, I don't think he likes to tinker around too much. Just comparing the situation, when Chelsea had Havertz and Ziyech on the bench, and still Tuchel prefers to go for Barkley. That's bold, and that's confidence coming from the manager. Ole as a manager, even even though he knows that some personnel are underperforming, I don't think he's doing enough in the training with them, or even not trying to prove a point by benching them or anything like that. He continues to play them. If it's just to show the board that he could do with better players in midfield, then that's a different issue. But otherwise, it doesn't make much sense.
I don't. Yeah.
And I'm so sure that United also have players in the academy which we neutral fans would not have heard of. You might be knowing better, but
not in that CDM position. Unfortunately, the only other player that's coming through is James Garner, and he's already out on loan. So they literally have no one to play that CDM.
And the manager is responsible for not highlighting that issue in the transfer window. I mean, he should have made it a strong case, that I need a Kante level or, like a really good CDM.
Yeah, apparently this is reports. I don't know how true this is. Rumors that he doesn't rate Declan Rice. He thinks he's too expensive for the price that is being quoted. So they're looking at cheap alternatives. But there was Bissouma. There was Kamavinga kind of had his heart set on Real Madrid. They did try to go for Kamavinga, but he wanted to go to Madrid. So you can't even blame him.
Available. I mean, even NDD is there.
So the same price, right? NDD is like 75, 80 as well. So, I mean, when you spend 75 already on Sancho and then you probably put all that money towards Ronaldo, how much money really is left, right? So, but anyway, I mean, I guess we kind of getting sidetracked with that. But thank you for that point, though. It's hard to say. But here's the thing: what I felt is the last two games. I think that is Solskjaer making a point to the fans. There's a conspiracy theory of mine. I have no basis to say this, but I just feel that it was like a bit of a the fans, because he played a 4-3-3 in the last game, which is something that he doesn't usually like to do. The fans have been saying, play a 4-3-3, play Pogba in midfield, play, 4-3-3. He played it, and he was, look what happens when I play 4-3-3. We almost lose. And then in the last game, he played Cavani because a lot of people were like, well, play Cavani, take out Ronaldo, like let Cavani get a start. So he played Cavani, and I think, again, it was, and he took out Pogba as well because people wanted to drop Pogba. And he was like, look what happens when I don't play those guys either. So I just feel like sometimes he tries to make a point, but the wrong kind of point. That's what I think. There was actually a report as well, not a report, but an article that was like, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't look like a manager who's under pressure, because if you're under pressure, you don't make those kind of decisions. You don't bench Ronaldo, and you don't take out, and you don't play a 4-3-3, like you don't play McTominay as a lone CDM when you're under pressure needing to win games. So maybe what we are thinking externally, yes, he's under pressure, but maybe the board are like, do whatever you want to do. As long as you get top 4 at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, which I think kind of makes sense. But I mean, Gaurav, I think the final note on this, and I could just, if we had two United guys, we'd probably just kind of been ranting all the time. So it's good that you guys are not United fans, so we don't have to go too deep into these things. But what is a realistic? What is a realistic ambition at this point for United for this season? Really, because I know some people might still cling on to title hopes. I don't think it is, but what do you think is a realistic ambition for United?
But honestly, realistic would be definitely top 4, finishing in the top 4. But before the transfer window ended, I think everyone, even the United fans, apart from you, I think they were really happy. You got Varane, you got Ronaldo.
I was happy too. I was happy that we got the players, but sorry.
Yeah, realistically, top 4 would be the.
I was happy, but I was happy, but I was not happy that we're going to win title happy. I was that we're going to finish top 4 happy. That's, because I just think that there's a big gap between United and the other 3 clubs. And I don't think just buying players was going to bridge that. You needed a system that was going to work. And I just don't think they have a system at this point that works. And again, it goes back to maybe he needs to bring in Donny van de Beek, but he will not bring him in no matter what happens. If Donny van de Beek is the only player left at United, he will still not pick him. The team will like, I'll do a forfeit, but I will not pick Donny. I just feel that way sometimes.
And he seemed really frustrated.
I think so. I think he should leave in Jan. I think Donny van de Beek should be just like, listen, maybe put in, I know we don't put ultimatums in there, but he used to be like, listen, we've got the next 4 games and, the team is not, because the team is not doing well, right? The team was doing well. You can kind of understand. It's the same with John Stones, who's never played a minute for City this season, but the team is doing well. So you kind of have to understand that you're not going to get in. But if the team is not doing well and you don't get on the pitch, then I think that he should say, listen, we've got 4 games. I need to play at least 2 or 3 of those. Otherwise, you got to let me go in Jan because I need to go somewhere else, right? So that's just my take on it. I don't know how it works out. Siddhant, I guess that's the final question for you, just from United's perspective, because we kind of want to close the loop on this. Gaurav talked about the realistic ambition being top four. Is there, I mean, if you look at that front six, right? Because you're talking about Fred, McTominay, and then you've got Bruno, you've got Ronaldo. Let's assume those four positions. I mean, obviously, let's assume three of those four positions are filled. Who are the other three? What way do you think that the other three positions should be filled? Should it be Sancho? Should it be Pogba? Who else is there? We've got Greenwood. And then you've got Cavani as well in there. What are the positions that what would your ideal three players be to complement those three?
Yeah, so I would pick Greenwood, Pogba, and Sancho. And in fact, I would like to add that Sancho actually had a decent game against Everton.
He did.
He was quite lively. He was picking up good passes, and he was threatening. So yeah, those are the three players. Cavani, I don't think he's a starter. I mean, he's more like an impact player by now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think the team can carry both Ronaldo and Cavani anywhere. I don't think so. But anyway, all right, on that
note. Just one point to add that United were never... See, everyone keeps talking about how there's a lack of central defensive midfielder for United. But United were always the team who used to believe in outscoring the opponent. So, it's not just about the defensive aspect. Ole is even failing in the attacking aspect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to play, because basically a back six, right? Where you have four and you have your midfield, that's a back six. It's not a back four. It's a back six. So you're relying too much on the front four to do all the attacking work. That's what I feel. Anyway, and I just think that that's not going to work. But anyway, we will see. He's got 2 weeks to sort it out. There's an international break coming up. Final questions for you. Gaurav, who's your player of the weekend?
Definitely Salah.
Salah, yeah, that goal, right? Yeah, the goal and assist, I think definitely makes a good case. So that's done.
I would pick in a very biased manner. I would pick Werner. I mean, he has had really bad games, so this would surely be a confidence booster for him.
Absolutely.
And he helped with Chelsea win the game, which otherwise was going 1-1.
So. Yeah, and he scored a goal as well. So I don't think you can rule that out. I think he did very well. You know what? I'm gonna, because I like to pick a few other players as well, like outside of just the regular. So I'll pick Hwang Hee-Chan. He scored 2 goals. I know he played against not the best of opposition, but you know what? He scored 2 goals. You get a mention on our show. I know only 50 people watch it, but anyway, you get a mention on this show, and you're my pick for player of the weekend. But anyway, on that note, we've now got a 2-week break because we're going into the international break. There's a lot of games that will be coming up. We're not going to be covering any of them because we don't care about World Cup qualifiers and things like that. England playing against Andorra and those kind of teams, quite frankly, doesn't have time. It's not, I don't know. But yeah, that's something coming up. I think what will be interesting to note for that one will be to see how well Kane does, and I think how well Jack Grealish does, because he's had a bit of an average time as well the last few games. So those will be quite some interesting ones to keep an eye on. But we'll be on that. And we'll come back with the preview, so we'll kind of have something to dissect there. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Gaurav. Thank you so much, Siddhant, for joining me today. Always a pleasure to have both of you and to hear your views on the show. And thank you, Siddhant, for bringing a lot of banter and a lot of subtle remarks and digs on the show. Like, I mean, that's Gaurav is like the analyst. He does everything that this is what it is. And then Siddhant is like, I don't care about that. That's guy's crap. So thank you for bringing that contrasting dynamic on our show. It's always great to have that. Yeah, and
it's always good to be here. Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
always. Thank you. Yes, and then on that note, if you did enjoy the show, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. If you're new, you can also share your comments about what do you think of the games and how do you think things need to change or need to get better for certain teams, or what other teams can have been doing great to be where they are. Let us know in the comment section. In the meantime, we'll see you again. Hopefully, maybe tomorrow. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow. Maybe if not, then we'll definitely see you in a couple of weeks once the real football returns. But until then, take care. Have a good day or night, whatever time you're watching this, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.